Hi, we're going to look at some of the concepts from Chapter 2 in the second grade book. There are two different strategies that are taught for mental math that just require a little bit of practice, so I want to kind of explain one to you really quickly. One of the problems that might show up in your child's book is the following. 15 minus 9. Now, in the Singapore textbook, it does often have you doing one of two things, and we're going to look at the book specifically here in a moment, but it'll often have you re-express an equation after you've done a piece of the work in boxes that are right next to it. I'm going to show you that really quickly, but then show you also a typical example without these boxes that are built in. So, for instance, right now, the way that we've been describing this in the classroom that has been beneficial is looking at, say, for instance, cookies I have, looking at, like, a child with cookies and saying, that mom has given us 15 cookies, just like you see we're starting out with this number up here. Mom has given me 15 cookies. And what happens is instead of taking away 9, we're actually going to take away 10. The reason for that is because if we look at 15, we can really quickly in our heads go ahead and say, well, what is 10 less than 15? Just because we're looking at simple numbers in place value that don't require a lot of memorization. We can literally just cover up the 1 in the tens place on 15 and say, okay, well, I know that taking away a 10 from 15 is only going to leave me covering up that 1 in the tens place with 5 in the ones place, meaning the only thing that's left is going to be 5. And so that's the whole purpose of this particular strategy, is subtracting a 10. So let's take a peek at how to do that. So first thing that I want to do is I want to create a number bond with 15. I know that I'm going to create the number bond of 10 and 5 to equal 15. Now, what I need to show you is taking away 10. So right now, Mom, again, this is the way it's introduced in the classroom. Mom has said that I have 15 cookies on my plate and that I can give you 9 of them. Instead of taking 9, you go ahead and you take 10 of them. So I'm going to take my counters and I'm going to move them over to your side. I'm going to put a line here so that we can see the separate sides here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to take away 10 of my 15 cookies to put them on your side. All right. So here we go. If I take away 10, we ask, well, what am I left with? I'm left with 5. Okay, so think back to the Singapore book and the way that it likes to represent things in expressions. So what's left here is this 5. We're looking at the leg of that number bond that is left. We're looking for this piece being done because we've expressed it as 10 and 5. 5 is now gone because we've used that one. And then we can look at this last piece here in a second. So we've taken 10 away. We're left with 5. We rewrite it in this the new expression box over on the right. And we're going to look at that without those boxes here in a moment. So right now, we know that there's a problem. The way that this is relatable is thinking about like a sibling or a friend that takes too much of what they've been told that they can take, and so then we end up trying to take it back, or a student would end up taking it back. So looking here, I know from here that 9 is less than 10. We subtracted 10 though, which means that you owe me something in return. So what we've been doing in the classroom is counting up to whatever number that, from that 10 that we took away, that we were supposed to take away instead. So here we go. I'm just going to kind of move these down so that we can see one-to-one correspondence of touching them, how many 9 truly is here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, this is the 9 down here in that bottom right 2 rows, that you were allowed to take. What is left is the one that I didn't touch. Now, that means that you took one too many. I'm going to put it back on my plate of cookies. How many did I move? How many more did you take than you were supposed to? So we're really looking for the difference between these two numbers here that are circled, between 10 and 9. You took away 10, subtract the 9 that you were supposed to take from, and then whatever extra you took from me, we're going to add that back to that original leg of the number bond. So in this case, remember, we had 5 that were on our plate, and we ended up taking that 1 back from you and putting it on my own plate. So now we are left with 5 plus 1, which, if we count them here, really truly is 6 cookies. Okay, so the answer here would be 6. Singapore is probably going to have a box up in this general direction for you. Now, let's look at another one of those. I want to show you one with just the regular number bond legs and without that extra expression set of boxes over on the right. Okay, so looking at this one, let's do 14 minus 8, 14 minus 8, and we might have like an answer box here the way that Singapore typically does as you get a little bit further into the workbook. So looking at this, I'm going to go ahead and start with my plate and yours, and this could be toys, cookies, whatever you want to use. The first thing that I want to do is I know that I want to go ahead and I want to take away 10 because that's the strategy that we're using. So if I even covered up that minus 8, I could say I have 14 now. What would the other leg of my number bond be if I were taking 10 out of 14? Or another way to say that is 10 plus what equals 14. Addition tends to be something that's grasped onto easier or more quickly by students, so wording it as an addition problem can be helpful as well. So 10 plus what equals 14? I know 10 plus 4 equals 14. All right, so I'm done with that 14 at the top and I cross it off so I don't have to think about it again. So from here, I can go ahead and I can build 14. 1, 2, 3. Oh no. 4, 5. Put my line here. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm building what looks like a 10 frame. So our program typically uses 2 rows of 5 as a 10 frame, and you can kind of see that here. And that's just a really easy way for students to understand or sabotage or kind of like guess by looking at objects or dots or something like that, how much is actually there. So we tend to do things in groups of 5 and then layer them on top of each other. But okay, so here we go. We built our 14. We built 14 because that's how many I'm starting with in my subtraction problem. Now, you are supposed to take away 8. Mom said you could take away 8 of my cookies, but you're going to go ahead and take away 10 because that's what we're practicing. So taking away 10, oops, excuse me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So what are we left with? We're left with that 4, and we could see that here. Now, here's the thing. We go back and we say, wait a minute. You weren't supposed to take 10. Mom said you could only take 8. So if we're taking away more than we should, then we need to give back some of the pieces that we took over. So we can come and we say, here's 10 over on your plate. Let's count to 8 and see how many are left over from that 10 that you can give back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The only ones that I haven't touched are these 2 up in that top row on your plate. So what I'm going to do is I can put this number here. I have plus 2. Some teachers will write it, and it's a good practice as well, just like we did with the boxes. I have 4, and I'm adding back 2 from your plate, and it'll give me my answer. So I'm going to move them over. All right, so now we're looking at 6 of them, 4 plus 2, just like we're seeing at the the left leg of my number bond, or that circle with the stick on it. And then the 2 that you took from me that you shouldn't have, or overtook. So 6 plus 2 is going to be 6, and we can see that here with the dots as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this next piece. This is how it's presented in the book at the very beginning, being able to see that we are taking away, or using the 10 frames here, and being able to just cross them off. Now this is a different strategy, so we're going to look at that here in a moment. All right, so let's go back so I can show you the next strategy. All right, the next strategy is just being able to take a number and break it into 2 pieces. For instance, let's look at this. This is double subtraction that we're looking at. 13 minus 7. Basically, what's going to happen is we are going to take 7, or that second number, and we're going to break that number up. To make it mental math, we want to try to make some sort of similar number that we can subtract in our head, and then take the rest of the number we're subtracting away. Sorry, that sounded really weird. So looking at 13 is what we're starting with, and if I'm looking at the ones place here, it should be really easy for a student, or for an adult even, to subtract 3 from 13, because the only thing that's being affected here is the ones place. So I know for a fact that using 7 in a number bond, I could break 7 into 3 and 4. 3 plus 4 does in fact equal 7. So I can cross off that 7 there because I've already expressed it as 3 plus 4. Now I'm actually going to subtract, and I can subtract mentally. So 13 minus 3, really quickly, we can go ahead and say that that is 10. I typically encourage rewriting that answer so underneath. So we've written down 10, which is coming from this oval of 13 minus 3. Now, mind you, we're supposed to be subtracting 7. We've only subtracted 3. So the other leg of our number bond needs to be subtracted as well. I like to write whatever that second leg is so that we can see this new problem. Now 10 minus 4 is something that is a simple fact that should be able to be recalled very quickly. If you need to use the counters, that's totally fine as well, but 10 minus 4, as we know, is going to be 6. Building this, let's see, would be, and I'm going to put this 3 up at the top here. Building this would look something like this. This is in fact 13. Taking away that 3 right away, 1, 2, and 3, we are left with that 10, which gives us the chance to go ahead and take away that second leg there, which is 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh, one of them disappeared. That was weird. And we can see that there are 6 left here. So I want to kind of show you that on this as well, just to see how the book kind of starts to show these, and they look a little strange. So looking at this one, we have, let's say 13 minus 5, this box over here on the right. 13 minus 5 equals 10 minus something. Okay, so that sounds really weird. What they're asking you to do is to come down here first so that we could fill in that box. Looks really strange. Sometimes I recommend doing the work outside of the box and then trying to fill it in. But, so looking here, 13 minus 5 is going to be the same as 10 minus, well, what are we doing here? 13 is what we're subtracting 3, yes, what we're subtracting 3 from. The way that we got that was taking this 5 and breaking it up into a 3, trying to make that same ones place here, some number that is an addend of 5 that can match the ones place in our original number. 3 plus 2 is 5, so I can go ahead and I can subtract that now. So after I do 13 minus 3, I'm left with 10. I can come up here and I can actually cross it off. All right, so I'm crossing off that 3 that we just took away. Well, what's left is going to be 10, right? So we can subtract the rest of that 5 because we're supposed to be subtracting 5 altogether. We're just going to subtract it in 3 and then 2. So we're subtracting 2 more. 1 and 2. What we took away was 2. We took away 2 more because of that second leg down here. And what is left is going to be 8. Okay, so let's look at another one. Let's look at this one underneath that. 11 minus 3. Remember, we're trying to figure out, this is like step 2 of the problem. So 11 minus 3. I want to try to find some way to make a number bond where I'm getting a 1 in one of my legs because there is a 1 in the ones place of 11. So taking 3, breaking it into 1 and 2. Remember, we chose 1 so that we could have a matching ones place here. Because it's really easy to say 11 minus 1 because there's only one place value that's being affected. I'm going to cross that 1 off up here where the 10 frame and the dot is. That actually represents 11. Now it represents 10 because I've crossed 1 off. Well, what do we have left to subtract? If we come back down here to this bottom part, we can see that we are missing this 2. We haven't subtracted this 2 yet from our final problem. We've only subtracted 1, and we're supposed to subtract 3 altogether. So coming back up to the top part of this, 10 minus something, and that's going to be 10 minus 2. 10 minus 2 is shown here where my 10 frame is, and I'm crossing off 2 of those, and then I can actually count what is left. 10 minus 2 I can do in my head anyways, and most scholars will be able to, and if not, that's something to practice. So we can get our final answer here of 8. Now, let's look at this one. Now, I want to kind of show you some of these as well. This bottom section down here is just where you are able to choose whatever strategy works best for you. We do have a few of these up on the top that are our strategy for 10 because it's already listed as a 10 in that number bond. And then if it's not listed as a 10, it's going to be listed with a number that matches the number in the ones place. So a 3 and a 3, a 4 and a 4, a 1 and a 1, a 2 and a 2. Let's do one more of each just so that we can see a little bit, just one more example of each just to see what it would look like, especially without all of the crazy boxes and without the counters. So looking here, let's say 17 minus 9, this one right here. Okay, so 17 minus 9, I know that we're practicing the taking away a 10, which is more than we should. So looking here, I'm going to go ahead and do my number bond first. I know that 17 is going to be 10 plus something, or remember we can change that around. 10 plus what equals 17. Again, this is a good way to practice just regular subtraction as well. 17 minus 10 gives you what left over? It's going to give you 7 left over. This is a really good way to practice all of that fact family of 17, 7, and 10. Now, I've already used 17 technically by breaking it up and expressing it as 7 and 10. Now, coming here, I'm going to say, well, this is what we have subtracted. We have taken away 10. Oops, sorry, I did this prematurely. I'm taking away a 10 from 17. If I take away a 10 from 17, I am left with a 7. And I can see that right there because one of those legs is 7. And we can rewrite that problem over here just to make it more clear. But then coming and looking also at what we have actually subtracted. We subtracted more than we should have. So going back, what is the difference between the two numbers that we circled? Saying, basically, how many more did we take away than we should have? 10 minus 9 is 1. There would be 1 more that is given back to me to make sure that I get what I'm supposed to have. And if I put these two together, I end up with 8. All right, so now, similar problem right here underneath that, we're going to be looking at 11 minus 8. 11 minus 8 just has this regular box there, and then has the number bond to complete. So the first thing that we're going to do is complete that number bond. 8 is being made into 1 and something. So 1 plus what equals 8? 1 plus 7 equals 8. Now remember, this is the strategy not where we're subtracting 10, but we're double subtracting. And we're double subtracting first a number that can help us match that ones place. We have a 1 in the ones place of 11. We have a 1 in our number bond on purpose so that we can subtract and get down to a 10 or a 20 or something like that to just make this math a little more easier to do mentally. So 11 minus 1 is going to be 10. And remember, this is something that we can write over on the side. It's going to be 10. That's something that we've already done. You can write it on this side, or you can transfer it over onto the right side. That's totally up to you. I would typically do it here for this type of problem just because I need to see it where that 10 comes from. But there's no problem in doing both. So I've moved this 10 over, and now I've only